Good afternoon. My name is Alun, and this afternoon I'm facilitating a game of Eotenweard, my Dark Age hack of Monster of the Week, entitled the Synhamm Alliance. This is part of the Gauntlet Hangouts calendar, arranged through the Hangouts calendar. If you don't know about the Gauntlet, then you really want to find out about it. I'm not going to bore the players with a third introduction of time and place. They've got a sense of this Dark Age world that we're playing in. So I think I'll swiftly move on to asking the players to just briefly introduce themselves, introduce their character, and give us a highlight from the last session if they want to. Okay, so I'll go in the order of the character keeper, please. So could we start with you, Robbie, and then tell us about Tucca?
Okay, I'm Robbie. I use he, him pronouns. I am playing Tucca, who uses she, her pronouns. This is off the playbook of the Commoner. And Tucca is a Celtic woman with a forgettable face and dirty but well-made, or at least very sturdy clothes. She is she has a relationship with Iamon that goes back to their childhood, and one of the kind of avenues we're exploring is the relationship between Tucca and Iamon, because Iamon has become somewhat famous, and this has resulted in initially some friction or distancing between the two of them, but there are signs that distance may be reversing itself now and maybe closing. I guess a highlight from the last session, there was a battle that occurred in the trade city of Synhamm, and Tucca, who is a commoner, is nonetheless proving to be, I would say, perhaps a little bit surprising when it comes to conflicts, and Tucca helped to lead a party of women from Synhamm to put an end to an incursion that was occurring in the palisade wall. It seems like the people who were assaulting Synhamm had a kind of devious plan to make an assault on the main gate, but while that was going on, to have soldiers elsewhere trying to make breaches in the palisade wall. And so she was successful in helping to lead some of the women of Synhamm to put a stop to that breach. And a lot of the women of Synhamm who kind of saw her in action have now kind of I kind of look up to Tucca a little bit as somebody who they see as being kind of helpful to them in terms of keeping the town free from those invaders.
Thank you for that. I think what I'll do is I'll go, Sabine, can we do you next and Iamon, because that would be a logical order to do it after Robbie's contribution.
Okay, sure. I am Sabine. I use any pronouns, and I'm playing Iamon, who uses he, him pronouns. Iamon is a monster hunter. He has left his village when he was rather young because his family was starving, and he thought that one less mouth to feed, and he could make his own way in the world, which he has. Sometimes it was better, sometimes it was worse. In the last few months, it was a lot better because he became kind of a guest to Earl Wicklow, and after getting rid of some sort of curse with Icenius, the young Hispanic Celt. Iamon is Celtic as well. He's Christian, not fervently Christian, but he's been baptized, and he goes to church, and he believes that when the priests say if you do good things you go to heaven, then that's probably what will happen. Yeah, so last session, I should recount the legend of Iamon, which kind of between the sessions became a thing. Iamon is well, in one way, he's quite happy about it because it means he gets to eat regularly. In other ways, it's kind of, he thinks it's a bit overblown because the scout was very enthusiastic and hyperbolic, I think is the word. But on the other hand, it gives him a bit of fame, and that's not too bad, I guess. Last session, anyway, we met this guy, Ulfric, who was a pagan, okay, but he was also a warrior. And when King Beda's forces attacked Daenham, Iamon meant to play it safe and fight with a shield wall, but Ulfric, of course, jumped down to the battering ram and attacked 20 Saxon warriors, and he thought, okay, I like this guy, I can't let him fight alone. So he jumped down as well and fought off those 20 Saxon warriors together with Ulfric. But the high point for Iamon was that after the battle, he met Tucca and she hugged him. It was painful because he was wounded, but still, he kind of likes Tucca. But he still thinks that she is married because he's kind of asked her and she's kind of not said anything to the contrary.
Thank you for that. Again, Scott, forgive me, I'm going to go to Alejandro next because he might have something to say about that battle as well. So Alejandro, tell us about yourself and Icenius.
Icenius is a Hispanic Celt that was born into a Catholicizing society, though he was an unwitting pawn, I guess, of the old gods, and his family freaked out and kicked him to the street. Actually, they sold him to slavers. The slavers, that didn't work. It didn't work out very well for the slavers. They kicked him out. God, how do you say the name of the town again? Synhamm?
Synhamm.
Synhamm. In Synhamm, and that's where he met Iamon. He spent, after their adventure, he spent some time in the swamp, learning the old ways, studying the old ways, and now he's left the swamp and has joined this group. On the journey to where they are at right now, I think it was established, I hope it was established, that Icenius was somewhat looking out for Setia. How do you say her name? Setia? Setia?
Setia, I think we settled on, did we?
Setia.
Setia, yeah. So he was looking out for Setia, just kind of keeping an eye on her, because she seemed to be distant or something. And then during the battle, he called on the old ways, on the old gods, to start a storm that prevented from the town burning down, and he in the end he went to go try to aid Tucca, but it turned out Tucca did not need his aid, and that's what I remember. Also, I want to add just that last week I forgot what Ulfric's player's name was.
Blake
Suggested that I do more than just cut my hand and I just to cast my magic, which I think is reasonable, but I can't think of what. If anybody has any suggestions, go ahead and make them.
I've been thinking about that over the week, and what I'm going to offer you is, because the rules say harm or fate, but I think if you are at risk of becoming unstable, I think I might allow you to go into debt with the powers that grant the font of your powers. So you could go into debt in extremis. But I think I'd want you on the edge of being unstable in terms of harm.
So at 5, someone I'm at 4.
I think if you get to 4 harm, I think I'd allow you to seek to go into debt to the powers that be. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's interesting. Thank you.
Okay, so that's the background. We are going to kick off as oh, sorry, Scott. I've missed you on the character keeper, and now I've forgotten. So, Scott, tell us about yourself and Setia.
I'm Scott. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm playing Setia, who uses she, her pronouns. She's a little bit older. Iamon is my niece, nephew, right? Nephew, and I, as a loon, I hear and see things, and I'm starting to question why that's happening to me. As I become unhinged, I'm wondering why I was selected for these visions.
Yes, old gods on new gods, I wonder. Because it must have been God, mustn't it?
Right.
Okay, so that's where we've got to. The next stage of the journey is from the settlement. Alejandro, can you mute yourself? Thanks. The next stage of the journey is from Danum to the seat of the King of Elmet, the Christian kingdom, the Celtic Christian kingdom of Elmet, where you are seeking an alliance against what you hope is a common enemy in the form of King Beda of Lindsey. So I'm very happy to have a couple of one-on-one scenes on that journey. Who would like to have a scene with somebody else on the journey to Verbea, which is where the seat of power for Elmet is?
I have an idea of a scene that would be the, not on the journey, but the evening after the battle.
I'm very content with that.
And this would be a scene between Tucca and Iamon. And I mean, what I imagine is after that battle, there would be some celebration going on.
Absolutely, you will be feasted for your effort.
And I imagine Tucca getting into the spirit of things, quite a bit into the spirit of things, and the celebration and the mead that is getting passed around and things of that. And I imagine she's hanging out a lot with some of the women, but I also possibly imagine that some of the men of the town are also kind of interested in Tucca as well. And so, you know, this is going on, and I could then imagine, you know, Iamon kind of seeing Tucca, who is kind of carousing with some of the inhabitants of Danum, getting into the great spirit of oh, we have successfully defended our town.
I think that's quite cool. Iamon, what do you say, think when you see some of the young men of Danum paying attention to Tucca?
I wonder why they aren't paying attention to their wives, actually, because I mean, these are people who are living in a town, probably they should be married, right? Oh, well. I think Iamon usually likes to get a bit into the spirit, while Iamon likes to drink ale. He never likes to get really drunk. So right now he's probably just sipping at his ale because he's been in a battle and Ulfric has patched him up, yes, but he's still a bit hurty. But I think he will walk over just to make his presence known and see if Tucca maybe wants to talk to him.
Yeah, so I think Tucca, and I could imagine there's one or two other kind of young men hanging around Tucca, but she sees Iamon and looks up and says, "Iamon, I've never experienced such a celebration myself before, but this must be something that you have more experience with.
And Iamon's sitting down and says, not really that much. Usually it ends up, when I'm on a hunt, it ends up with either people begrudging me the earnings I take, or they're like, I'm always a stranger.
Well, we may be strangers here, but I don't think anybody's begrudging us what little fame we've won. I mean, this was a wonderful thing that we have accomplished. My spirits are up.
Well, that's good to see. You look very beautiful tonight, if I may say so.
And Tucca, hearing that, I think she pauses for a second to kind of think about what Iamon has just said, and then kind of composes herself and says, "Well, thank you, Iamon. Have you tried any of this great brew that they've been passing around at this celebration?" And she takes a big swig from her mug.
Yes, I have had one cup, and this is my second already. So, to your health.
To your health.
Yes, and then I guess we'll toast Dana maybe a bit. But you notice that Iamon is really actively trying not to get really drunk.
And I think Tucca will say, "Come on, Iamon, you're holding back a little bit. This is a time for festivity. This is a time to kind of let loose a little bit."
Yeah.
Why are you so uptight all the time?
I am so uptight all the time because the last time I got drunk in the village, I got robbed. And the last time I got drunk in the wilderness, I nearly got eaten. I like to keep my wits about me.
Well, perhaps, but I don't think people of Danum are in much of a robbing spirit right now. I think this is a time when everybody is ready to celebrate, and I myself am more than happy to get into the spirit of things.
Well, I'm not saying you shouldn't. It's okay. Give me another one.
And I think Tucca gives you her own mug that she's been drinking from.
Well, are you going to drink now?
Oh,
Are you trying to get me drunk?
Well,
just joking. Sorry.
This is a time for enjoyment, and we should get into the full spirit of it.
Well, I don't enjoy a hangover usually. I would ask you to dance because they have these rather mediocre musicians here, but right now I don't. Okay, do you want to dance? I'm not a great dancer. I'm warning you, I'm a terrible dancer. But do you want to dance?
Yes, I'd love to dance. But first, let us have one more toast.
All right.
Kind of, and Tucca takes a big swallow from her mug, and I imagine that the two of them go off. And Tucca's really focused on having a good time. So I think you see her kind of quickly getting into the spirit of the dance. Yeah,
Iamon is a bit more. He's not used to dancing. He doesn't usually get to dance a lot. And then when he said he was a terrible dancer, he wasn't actually lying. I mean, he's coordinated usually, but he doesn't know how to dance. That's more.
What is Tucca's objective? Let's put some cards on the table here. What's she angling for?
I think she's definitely warming up to Iamon. I think that I imagine that she has had a little bit to drink at this point, and that has certainly kind of loosened her up a little bit. I don't think that she's not expecting at this point to kind of have things develop really quickly, but I think she wants to have a good time, and she wants to see Iamon having a bit more of a good time. She wants to kind of crack through some of this kind of self-consciousness and self-awareness that Iamon seems to be plaguing him and seems to be kind of holding him back.
So, Iamon, do we see anything that suggests that quite self-contained shell is beginning to crack?
Well, he is trying to dance with Tucca against his better judgment, even though he has been slashed at, attacked at, and stuff like that. But he's really doing it more for Tucca. I don't think, maybe at that point she's maybe not seeing that, but if anybody knows the two of them at least a little, they see that Iamon is going along with her just to make her happy.
And I suppose sorry, go on.
But I guess that kind of relaxes him as well, because I mean, here is actually somebody he knows. There is his aunt is here, and it's almost like he has people to belong with. So I guess that's, yeah, he's loosening up a bit.
So we see them whirling on the dance floor. I suppose, Tucca, what I was curious about was whether you were angling towards triggering a move or indulging your temptation.
Yeah, I've thought about the temptation, and I actually think what's happening is that Tucca was actually, with the carousing of the inhabitants of Danum, she was actually thinking about indulging in her lust, but she's actually, which would benefit her, by the way. I mean, there is a fate point that would get rid of, but I think she actually is now, with Iamon, deliberately holding back on that a little bit, and kind of sees this kind of interaction with Iamon as something that is satisfying to her, and she's not going to kind of pursue her lust at this point with him, but is actually going to kind of keep some focus on him and kind of see the kind of satisfaction in kind of getting him to break his shell a little bit.
Okay.
Can I ask you a quick question, Alan?
Sure.
That to me sounds like an interesting, like Tucca's wrestling with this, because I'm sure Tucca is feeling lustful towards Iamon, right? But so it's like this internal conflict. I wonder if there's some sort of role to kind of force Tucca to like slip or not slip or so. But in any case, it's still struggling with the temptation. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't think I need a role on that. I think that Tucca is Tucca's own person. What I will say is that there's a very attractive young Celtic man called Briccius who was drinking with Tucca earlier, who we will cut to watching her dance. And I think, given what Tucca has described in terms of her inner conflict, their eyes will meet across a crowded room, but Tucca will look away and look at Iamon. Yeah? Is that a good place to close that one out?
Yeah.
Okay. So anybody else want to do anything the night after the battle, or we can cut to some scenes on the journey north?
I'd rather cut to the journey personally.
Fine. So the journey north. So you're Tucca in the mule, Bennis the mule, Iamon probably leading. We've got Setia and Icenius bringing up the rear, perhaps. This is a 2 or 3 day journey. So does anybody want to have a scene during the day on the journey, or around the campfire?
I would love to have a campfire scene with my aunt, but it should be while the other two are asleep. So I'll be willing to wait. I have a scene right now.
Okay. Anybody else want a scene?
I wouldn't mind having actually a brief scene with Setia. Only that, like, from the journey up to this point, Setia's been really
Quiet
and distant, and Icenius is concerned.
Okay. How do you want to? If that's fine with Setia, let's see where that conversation goes.
I walk up, like, while we're walking, I think I either slow back down to her or speed up to her, and I cut an apple in half, and I hand you half of the apple, and then I take the other half. And I just ask you where you've been. Setia, where have you been?
Oh, you know. Here or there, listening, watching, worrying.
Should I be concerned?
I feel dark times coming. It feels heavy out here.
Yeah. Perhaps one of these days I could lead you on a ritual to remind you the names of the old gods.
I have great fear to know, but also a burning desire. We should do that.
And then with that, I just kind of walk on or back, or just kind of, yeah.
And I'll eat my apple.
The apple has become Icenius's calling card. He has an inexhaustible supply of them, and when he runs out, he steals one. But just tip me the wink when you're ready to have the scene of that ritual. We could have it now, or we can pause it.
It would be later in time. I mean, we could have it now if you want to, Setia. Like maybe when we start making camp, I kind of pull you off to the side if you want to, or we can do it later on. Totally up to you, Setia.
Because what I was wondering was whether you could go off into the woods, leaving the campfire conversation to go on, or not.
Yeah, I think let's do the campfire conversation. It feels like that's something we should do at the darkest time of the morning, like at 2 a.m. or something, well after midnight when it's, really deep into the night. So that would allow the scene with Iamon to happen as well. So.
Okay, so I'm seeing a campfire dying down to embers in the dead of night. Stars above, probably we're seeing some trees outlined, silhouetted against the Milky Way. How do you want to kick this off?
I think I want to see if the other two are asleep and my aunt is still awake, and I think I'm just getting some branches on the fire again, because we shouldn't let it die down totally. And I imagine that in the evening we were making camp and having some certain snippets of conversation here and there. And Iamon is sitting back, and he looks at his ad and he says, "You know what? This is weird. You know, I've been alone and on my own for so long, and this kind of feels like I'm almost at home again, which I haven't been in, I don't know, 10 years or something."
Did you crave companions?
No, not really. But I mean, I had a teacher, sort of teacher, for a while until he got eaten. But I've been alone ever since. And I thought that was what I wanted, or that was what I could expect, because, you know, I have nothing really. I have no prospects. I have no land. I cannot offer anything to a wife. I have no family, and I wasn't looking for a family. But now, sitting here, being here, you with, and he looks at Tucca, but he doesn't say her name, with everyone, feels like, I don't know. Well,
Life surprises, doesn't it?
yes, I guess. Didn't think I'd see you again.
That maybe would have been for the better. I can't tell. I can't see. I'm glad you're well. You remind me of your mother.
Well, hardly remember her.
That is too bad. I think she'll be proud, and you have much to offer.
And how to swing an axe.
That is becoming more and more valuable in these dark times.
Yeah, it's true. Well,
Not everybody can be a plowman. Some people need to protect the plowman.
I'm willing to do that.
What drives you to do that?
Well, I don't really know. I've always wanted to. You know, the world is unfair to us in almost everything. Some people get born with a wrong leg. Some people get born with bad eyesight. Some people get born rich. It's not fair. And I think some of us have to do something just for a bit of fairness in the world. We don't really need monsters to come and eat the people, because usually they eat those who have had a bad life anyway. They don't come for the princess.
Perhaps the monsters aren't the real things we should fear. They are capricious. They don't harm out of spite or anger or greed or jealousy. The way the lords can, the way they do.
Well, a good lord protects his people.
Yes, I'm thankful for that.
And I'm not the kind of person, I don't know enough to judge my fellow humans mostly. I mean, if they attack me, I will judge that they are probably not somebody nice, and I will hit them. But to judge if somebody's worthy of their title or not, or something, I don't know. I don't feel that I can do that. Monsters are easy.
True. I have sensed a growing closeness between yourself and another.
Yes. Can I ask you something? Is she married? Do you know that? I don't know how to ask her that. Or can you find out?
I can find out, but I want you to guard yourself.
No. Yes, of course. If she is married, then even if she is not, which I wouldn't understand, but even if she is not, I am not husband material.
Be that it is may, love and lust is a deep pit in which many fall. Try to control your fall.
Yes, thank you. But can you find out?
I will do that for you.
Thank you. And
That feels like scene. Does that feel like scene?
Yeah, that feels like scene.
Well, then the logical instant segue is to back to the trail and a conversation between Setia and Tucca, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, do the ceremony.
Well, I was thinking an immediate follow-up to that conversation would be Setia trying to find out any details of Tucca's personal habits. But I'm happy to go to the ritual.
Alejandro, what do you think? You want to do the ritual now, or how many days of travel do we have?
Several.
Oh, okay, yeah, maybe another day of travel, then we find like a perfect copse of trees within which to do the ceremony or some such.
Yeah, something darker, farther away from people.
Yeah. In the more wild spaces.
Okay, I can find you a wooded hilltop in the vicinity of the trail. So do you want to do the conversation with Tucca now? Or...
Sure. You good, Tucca?
Yeah, and I was just reminding myself that you were already suspicious of me, because you saw me, or at least thought you saw me cheating somebody in the village, and so there's already a little bit of friction between us.
Right. Tucca.
Yeah.
I saw you. I see you may have eyes for my nephew. He is quite the handsome and striking figure, is he not?
And she looks at in the distance, sees Iamon and says, "Yeah, he's a healthy man. I sense that there's something behind your question."
Many of us should have a healthy man or a healthy woman to spend our time with. Is it not so?
Sure, yeah.
Do you not enjoy those evenings when you go home?
Well,
and you have someone waiting for you?
Well, I must say that usually when I go home, I'm exhausted. I have a kind of difficult life usually. I mean, it's not a bad life, but I'm working. I'm kind of helping my neighbors with taking their produce to the village to be sold and things like that. So usually when I get home, I take care of Bennis, and I have neighbors around, and it's a nice life out there. It's a nice community on the outside of the village.
So you do not provide for any but yourself?
Well, do I provide for anybody? Well, I have other people that are providing for me, and I provide for them. I mean, that's what a community is all about, isn't it? You know, we look
That
out.
is what a community is about. But sometimes we have communities within communities. A family, for instance, is a community of its own within the larger community. Have you never desired to have a family, to have a son, a daughter?
Well, and Tucca's looking a little uncomfortable right now. It's like, okay, of course I've thought about that type of a situation, but you know, family life has been challenging for me. I lost my parents. I was raised by a kindly woman who took me in, but you know, I would have to say that some of those experiences have been troubling to me. So I've kind of put my I've put my focus on my community, right? The people that are around me, my friends, my neighbors, you know, they have given me much much support and much enjoyment.
Tell me about that produce run I saw you making. That seemed like you left quite a share to yourself. Did I see things honestly, or was that share intended for another? And I'm basically trying to call in the debt. So,
this is the first time we've invoked this mechanic. So would it be helpful just to be a bit clear about this?
Yes.
So if Sisha's calling in the debt that Tucca owes her for apparently not letting on that she thought she did something suspicious, Tucca has the option. She can go with that and do what Sisha asks, and that is could be erase a debt they hold on someone else, give you a debt they hold on someone else, answer a question honestly, which is I think where we're going, or make it easier to convince the target, i.e. Tucca. If Tucca wants to refuse that, then there's a move that encompasses that and the consequences falling out of it. So I just want to be clear about the mechanics. So I think what we're seeing is Sisha wanting to get an honest answer about this these familial relationships. Is that fair?
yep.
So answer honestly or refuse to pay the debt.
Yeah, I think eventually, yeah, Tucca's fine with giving an honest answer to this. I don't. I think her resistance has to do with the fact that Sisha seems to kind of look at Tucca with suspicion, and Tucca doesn't really understand that. But I think, you know, Tucca finally says, "Look, Sisha, you've been taking a roundabout path, and I know finally what you want to know. The honest answer here is I have enjoyed living the way that I live. And right now, what that has meant is I have a small place to live by myself. And I'm perfectly content with that. there certainly are young men who've been interested in me, but I kind of appreciate the life I've been able to carve for myself on the outskirts of Synhamm, and I have a good group of community and friends who've been around me for support.
You're lucky to have found contentment. Many of us still haven't. I do hope in these dark times that you wish and you long for more than just contentment. However, you do seem to be earnest and honest.
Well,
and that's heartening.
Yeah, Setia, I realize that that these are in some ways dark times, but I guess my wish for you, Setia, is that you would just kind of open your eyes to the spots of light that are all around us. This journey, for example, I mean, yes, there's pressing concerns that are weighing on us for this journey, but it has also been wonderful. Have you noticed the plants that we've been passing by? There's some plants that I haven't seen before. This kind of countryside. It may be rugged at points, but it's also very beautiful.
When you look and you see that beauty, do you know what I see? I see that in years past, those plants grew more fully. They flowered larger blooms. I see the change, and that change that I see it's frightening me. I don't see the same beauty that you can.
Yeah, maybe it's the result of the fact that I don't remember these plants from any earlier times. For me, so much of this is new that I don't know. I find it invigorating.
To see the world through your eyes would be, even for a day, but see, you seem, it is such a blessed thing that you have. Don't lose that. And I think, is that seen?
Yeah, I think that's good.
That seems like seen to me. So I think what the outcome of that mechanically is, I think the debt that Tucca owed Setia, the suspicion is eroded, so those debts are cancelled, and we'll see where the relationship goes from there. Now I notice we've been playing for about an hour, so I'm going to suggest a short break, hot drink, and a trip to the bio, so to speak. So shall we say? Would 5 past the hour be okay? See you back here then. Is that a RuneQuest character sheet I see before me?
No, it's Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, right. I thought I saw a classic RuneQuest body target picture, but it's been a long time since I saw a D&D sheet close to.
Yeah, I don't like D&D much at all, but that's the only thing people around me play. So I'm trying really, really hard to see if I can take D&D and drift it towards story games without it becoming something else. And I started working on it, and I turned it into something totally different. So now I'm going back to the drawing board and just trying to like figure it out. So
it's a real toughie, because my face-to-face group is a traditional D&D and a bit of Call of Cthulhu, but they've taken to this system quite well, actually, and Fate.
Yeah, I think that once I get started with people, I'd be able to get them on board with these types of games, but I'm not sure, because most people I think Dungeon World kind of answers the question to some degree. Like, people often, when they play D&D, they think they're playing one thing, but they're playing another thing, and D&D kind of addresses that dichotomy. So
yeah,
but I have issues. The same issue, very similar issues I have with Dungeon World are the issues I have with D&D. So
yeah, me too. I'm not a great fan of Dungeon World, must say. Okay, so, and we're back in the room. I think the next logical point is to be halfway to Verbea. We've seen you trekking across moorland and hills dotted with sheep. The odd settlement in the distance, but off the track. And then I think we will find ourselves at night having camped at the foot of a particularly regular hill, with a wood at the top, which would seem to Icenius to possibly be a place of power. What do we see Icenius doing with or for Setia while the others are asleep, unless they want to stay awake and watch?
I don't invite them, but I also don't think I make a secret of it. You know what I mean? So just like when we start stop for camp, I just without question just take Setia by the hand and start leading her up the hill.
Gone to collect firewood, presumably.
Setia,
I will ask you if you don't want to continue your bow firing lessons, which I believe we have continued because you asked me to.
Yeah. But like, if you stop to do this, I go, we'll be back.
Oh, all right. Then I go and get the wood for the fire.
Okay, so what do you see when you get to the top of this hill and enter the woodland that confirms for you, Icenius, that this is a place of power?
So it's unnaturally like round. Like, the trees are unnaturally like well distanced and the same age. And when you get to the top, there's a stone ring that maybe that people who don't know interpret this as like a lookout point or like a watch spot, for some old local village, but I recognize it for what it is. And I have no idea how to do the ritual thing, but I have an idea of how to initiate this.
Well, pause for a moment, because Setia, I want to know what frightens you about this place.
As we climb up and move into the trees, there's no the sound of you guys have crickets, right? Or grasshoppers?
Grasshoppers.
That's right. We have crickets. You have grasshoppers. There is no sound of any grasshoppers or other insects who are generally active in the evening, and that's frightening.
Yeah, and it's still. And what are you afraid, Setia, is going to happen?
I am afraid to know the truth, but I have to know the truth.
Okay. So, Icenius, how do you want to approach this?
Setia, are you wearing a cross or anything?
I not openly.
Is
that a question?
Yeah, Setia, are you wearing any I want to say sacrilegious, but that's more of a Christian term. I don't know what a pagan would say. But are you wearing any
of the new symbols?
Yeah.
Yes, I have a small clay cross that I wear on this bracelet.
Let's leave that outside of the stone ring for now. And then if you take it off.
Do you do that, Setia? Do we see you laying this clay cross outside the ring of stones?
Very reluctantly removing it and unwrapping it, holding it, I kiss it, and place it down.
I do a kind of, and you kiss it. And then I lead you to the fire. I start the fire. And then while the fire is kind of coming to life, I pull out of like a side satchel this little something that's wrapped up in fabric, and I open the thing, and inside it there's like two like walnut sized organic things with spikes coming out of it, like just small little spikes. And I take them each in my hands, and I grab your hands so that we're like this, and then I squeeze so that the spikes like pierce into our hands, and we're like kind of standing over the fire, and I just start paganing,
invoking the old gods.
Yeah.
Klaatu.
Are you trying to summon something into the world?
I'm trying to follow the broken link I'm assuming Setia has to wherever the other end of that link should be.
Okay, it's time to spend the special effects budget. So what do we see on screen? As I think, as we've established in the fiction, Icenius's eyes roll up into his head. So we see the whites of his eyes. And I think we've traditionally then zoomed into that eye and seen what he sees. So what is Icenius seeing at this point?
So it's almost like an out-of-body experience. So you see a clear image of Setia and Icenius holding hands over the fire, and it's getting uncomfortably hot on their hands because their hands are too close, and so you can see them clearly, but everything else is blurry, and it almost looks like everything else, like there's like this wind blowing out from them, and it's like disturbing the light, and that's what's causing this thing. And we see this ethereal tendril that just kind of comes off of Icenius, just kind of going into the nether or whatever. And then we see another one off of Setia, and this other one is just kind of loose and blowing with this wind.
I think that then probably we cut to Setia's face and we zoom into Setia's eyes and we see that she is seeing the same things. So Setia, are you content to stay holding his hands, or do you break? I'll assume you are unless you tell me you want to break the contact.
Yeah, I think what we see, you know, when that quick fisheye zoom occurs and that kind of motion blurs out everything else, and it's just the two of us. We see Setia there, and she's actually a young girl in the vision that Icenius has. And yes, she actually grabs even tighter and tighter as it cuts into her skin.
Okay. So we see this tendril coming up from Icenius into this maelstrom of the other world. We see a similar, slightly vaguer one, perhaps, for Setia, flailing about as though trying to find out where to go. And then we see a third tendril, which appears to come out of Icenius's shoulder and head towards Setia. Setia, you can see it's coming out of his left shoulder, and it's a thin, probably darker, slightly more substantial tendril than these ethereal ones, and it's working its way towards you. What do you do?
It's moving its way towards me, right? Yeah, I'm actually, so that's when I start looking scared and kind of leaning backwards and starting to reduce my grip and pulling away.
Icenius, what do you do when you see this tendril emerge from your shoulder and head towards Setia?
I think with my spirit hand, I kind of lift out of my arm and I try to grab it and pull it back, and I'm not sure what it is. I've never been aware of that before, so I'm just trying to pull it back and trying to understand it.
I think that's probably look about you, isn't it? Let's see what you make of this thing.
What is look about you?
Sorry, roll plus sense, but you roll with advantage because you have that other world sight.
All right, well, I rolled an 11 and my sense is 1, so I got a 12.
That's pretty good. So on a 12, you could ask me, you hold 2, and you can ask me 2 questions about the location or situation, someone or something in the scene, what might have happened or might happen here, etc., etc., etc. Or you can choose to add a detail to the scene that changes or enriches the fiction, or ask me to do so.
I am looking for the questions really quick.
For what it's worth, it's on the Moves tab in the Character Keeper.
Yeah, I need it to be on the papers, on the paper tab, so that I think better that way. Okay, there it is. Before I ask the questions, do I recognize this from before, or is this?
I think you do recognize it as emerging from that fragment of flint embedded in your shoulder during a previous encounter with the Synhamm curse. But beyond that, what do you want to know?
Yeah. So I feel like there is some connection between us. Well, I'm struggling here. I'm sorry. Because I kind of want to add a detail to the scene. Like, I feel like this tendril is connected to me, but it's also connected somehow to this maelstrom, right? And
do you want to ask me if the tendril, the ethereal tendril going up into the otherworld maelstrom, is connected to the thing coming out of your shoulder? Is that what you're?
Yes.
I will tell you yes. The old gods are using that piece of flint as a conduit.
Okay. So,
and that conduit is reaching for Setia.
Okay. So I let go. I'm going to hold my other question, and I just let go of it, and I let it do what it wants to do, and I hold on to her tighter.
So I think if you want to break free, Setia, we're probably looking at a face danger move to see how well that goes, unless you want to kind of resort to violence and attack him in the real world.
Nope, let's do face danger.
So that is roll plus steal.
Yep, and mine is...
And then how do I hinder?
Well, you can have an option on hindering in a minute.
Okay.
Oh my, actually got a 12.
So the only way I think that you can screw with that one, because you're not going to get it down low enough, I think, with any hindrance, is you could call in a debt.
That's true.
And that would...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah? So you can call in your debt, and that allows you, in this context, I guess, you're not interested in erasing debts to somebody else or giving a debt you hold to someone else. I think it's answer a question honestly or make it easier to convince. Yeah? So you could try to convince Setia. If she wants to let go on that roll, she can. Can you convince her not to?
I say to Setia, in this ethereal world, not verbally, you have severed your ties to this reality. Accept it, and see the world new again.
Shall we see how convincing that is before we ask Setia what she's going to do?
Actually, I don't think we need a roll for that. I think the tying it to how I see the world is it fits the fiction that we've already established for Setia. So I think I think she's actually gonna. I think I'm convinced to, as I'm letting go. I lean in and I do close my eyes and kind of steel myself for what's coming, but.
I am going to not force a roll. I'd like a roll because there is some experience at stake, depending on how the roll goes. So that is roll plus subtle, Icenius.
Experience. Who needs character mechanical development?
6. I rolled a 6.
Oh, right. So on a 6, Setia will mark experience if she doesn't do what you want her to do. So it's a real choice for you, Setia.
I'm going to do it. I think
Okay. Hang on tight.
Icenius here. Sorry, he said the exact perfect thing.
Fine. So this reaches out. Icenius marks experience for failing, but this thing reaches out and wraps itself around Setia's throat. And again, I'll carry on describing till one of you jumps up and says stop. And you can feel it piercing your neck, Setia, as though tasting you, and moving across your face, and almost licking you. And then it withdraws. Yeah. Anybody want to do something?
Yeah, I want to. What is that? Oh, damn it! The character keeper. There we go. Is this a good time for me to use my soul move? I've got trust your gut.
I think that would be entirely appropriate. I think you've got plenty of choices to make.
Yes, I'm going to. It's +1 for me, so let's roll.
You need to tell me before you roll whether you're going to sacrifice fate or harm to power this move.
Let's see. I've got 3. I'm going to sacrifice a fate.
Fine.
But then that becomes the permanent way for you to use that move. So.
Yeah, just be aware, once you make the commitment, it's always going to be fate.
Okay, so I'm going to go with harm then in that case.
Fine. And we'll put that down to some kind of mental trauma if push comes to shove. But yeah, so you take a point of harm and roll to trust your gut. Tell us what you get.
I got a 5.
Okay, so on a 5, on 6 minus, the gods have a different plan for you and you are led into danger. So I think what I'm going to do is I've got 2 things happen. One, you, Setia, are convinced that Icenius can reconnect you to your roots and whatever it was the old gods wanted from you as a young woman that you discounted and has left you in this confused state ever since. And Icenius, there's a whisper in your ear and it says, bring her and the others to us, and you, boy, will be powerful. And I think we'll then cut the special effects to use just round the campfire, round the fire. Anything else with that?
So did this cause harm? Did we take harm for this whole ritual thing?
I think you took harm for instituting the ritual, and Setia took harm because of just the trauma of this really peculiar event. So each of you should mark 1 point of harm, and that's it.
Before we close it out, I feel like that we kind of fall down, just kind of sit hard on our haunches, and I pull out an apple, like cut it in half, and I hand you. I stick it on the fire, and I kind of warm it up on the fire and hand it to you. But yeah, and then I think that's how the scene ends.
Okay, Setia?
Yeah, that works.
When they come back to the camp, Tucca, what's different about them?
I think I pick up a smell, and it's not just the smell of the smoke from the fire. I mean, I can smell that. I mean, I can smell that they've been close to a fire, but I think along with that, there's a kind of bitterness that I can smell that I can't really pin down, but it definitely it's definitely something that I can catch.
Thank you. Iamon, do you notice anything different?
Yes, I think it's mostly that before they went up the hill, they had different ways of being strange, I guess, different ways of holding themselves. And now I think Setia is a bit closer to Icenius's idiosyncrasies. Oh my God, what a word. Yeah, it's like they've connected in some way. Iamon can't say if it's a healthy way or not, but they've connected.
I think that's certainly true. And yes, you do have another hold left, Icenius, for that look about you in the other world. What question do you want to ask me?
So it said, "Bring her to us." Did that mean repaganize her, or or was there like a physical location?
I think it was metaphorical. I think it's bring her back to the old gods, to the way of the old gods.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to do with around the campfire that night, or shall we cut?
I go straight to sleep. I don't even do any of my chores or anything like that. So.
You can both wrap up that 1 point of harm and just treat it, so you'll get that back by the following day if you spent a night asleep. And
yeah, I haven't slept in years, so I don't.
Fine. Yes, and yours is more traumatic than just a cut on your hand, isn't it? And if you're,
I just ask Setia if she's okay, because I'm a bit worried. I just want to ask her that. See how she answers.
You're muted, Scott.
He lives by himself. He's not married.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. I wanted to know how you were doing. Look, if it's booked.
Did I tell you that he lives by himself? What did you ask?
Are you all right, Setia?
Weren't we talking about Tucca just now?
No, we are talking about you.
You just asked me to find out if Tucca was married.
That was yesterday.
Maybe. Are you sure?
Pretty much.
I don't feel well.
You don't look well. I'll make you something to drink.
Can I just check mechanically? Are you seeking to trigger Capering Fool to distract attention?
I might as well use it. I've got the move. Why not? plus soul, so that's +1. Eight.
So on 7 to 9, pick either an important or no threat. Now, I don't think the threat one applies here. So I think that sounds to me like a decent distraction.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. So I consider you unimportant now.
Or maybe the way we'd pass that would be to say that her behaviors just distract you enough to make further interrogation really pointless.
Yeah, okay, so maybe I think I can help her anyway and leave her alone.
Does that seem fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just looking to give you a chance to fail there. I'm going to close out that evening, and I'm going to cut straight to you coming over.
Wait, one more thing. Okay. I'm so sorry. When we're leaving the fire, hopefully Setia is sufficiently distracted that she doesn't notice me putting my foot right next to the cross when we're leaving, so that she doesn't see it, and when we leave, she leaves the cross behind. So I'm trying to like.
How do you feel about that, Setia? Do you want to have a chance to spot that, or have you just wandered away distracted?
Well, I'm playing the role of Alun today by keeping my my volume muted while talking. No, I think I'll want to try to spot that.
Okay, then I think that's probably face danger on the part of Icenius. So it's roll plus steal, Icenius, to get away with that.
I rolled a solid 3.
So, Setia, you notice him doing this. So what do you do?
Oh, thank you for reminding me. I don't want to leave that behind.
So not quite ready for conversion yet. Okay, so if that's okay, I'm going to cut to you coming in the middle of a day across the brow of a hill into a broad green valley. And on this side of the river, meandering down this valley, is a reasonably maintained Roman villa with a settlement around it, a clearly Celtic settlement, round huts. This is Verbea, seat of King Ceretric of Elmet. So how do we see you approaching? And I am thinking, I have to say, Iamon, about your change of clothes.
I will change my clothes. That was, and what was his name again?
Ceretric.
Ceretric. Okay, that sounds Saxon, actually. Okay. I think he's Celtic, so he's probably Christian.
I think that your briefing at Synhamm will certainly have confirmed that all the kingdoms, the Celtic kingdoms, are Christian.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I will go and change my clothes and check my, I think I have a bag with the letters. I think I'm carrying letters from Synhamm, right?
You are.
Okay, and then I'm checking them if everything's okay, and okay, then, yeah, well, seems we're here. Let's go talk to this guy.
So how do we see you approach? Because there's a settlement with a palisade, with a gate, and the gate is guarded by Celts. I've got a picture somewhere of one of them. There he is. So yeah, there's a Celtic warrior in the character keeper once it's made its way to you. And how do you approach the gate? I suppose, what's your demeanor? Supplicant, arrogant?
I can tell you that Tucca's demeanor is like, I think when she crests that hill and sees the meadow, she doesn't run up to the settlement, but I think she does run down to that meadow and kind of is looking around her with some enthusiasm and excitement of like, oh, we're here. And I mean, this is also new to her, that there's, you know, a kind of that sense of excitement definitely kind of picks up with her, and also the fact that we've been journeying for a few days and now we've seen a settlement, and you know, it's like, oh, we've made it.
You have indeed. So so as well as Tucca swirling around, I've got a helicopter view of her.
I hear
The
some
hills
music.
are
and
alive with music. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think I will try to maintain my adult dignity, but I want to join her, but I can't. I'm on a mission now. And that's my demeanor as I walk up to the gate. It's just, I'm a person on a mission. I'm not arrogant. I'm not supplicant. I want something, and they can give it to me.
So businesslike, it sounds like.
Yes, businesslike.
And the guard on the gate will kind of say, "Hello, stranger. Who are you? What do you want here?"
Hello, my name is Iamon, son of Uther, called Borkinger, on a mission from the settlement of Synhamm on behalf of Earl Wicklow. I bring messages to King Ceretric of Elmet.
I don't think I'm going to make you roll for that, because that sounds pretty good. Does anybody want to get in the way of this, or are you going with Eamon's lead?
I'm trailing behind, looking for signs of pagan, like, you know, like a broken twig between two rocks or something, you know. But other than that, I'm not interfering.
Okay. So he stays on the gate, and he summons a boy, and a boy comes over and will lead you down to the Roman villa, which is in pretty good condition. It's thatched rather than tiled roofed as it might originally have been, but it presents quite a grand opening. There's a pillared opening with some steps up to it, and there are again warriors there. And the boy says to them, "I was sent to bring these visitors for the king." And one of them kind of looks at you and says, "Why should we? Who are you then?"
I will repeat my role, who I am and why I'm here, and I'm trying to look. I'm not trying to look. I am confident. I mean, I have the missive of the R. I'm not lying or anything.
That's absolutely true, and I think probably we'll get you as far as the hall of the king. So there's an open air quadrangle in the middle. And on the far side of that is the Great Hall. To the right, there's a church, a chapel built into the side of into those rooms. And you'll get as far as the gate, the doors into the hall. And there, I think probably you will encounter Briccius, the king's steward. And I think you will now need to convince Briccius that you deserve an audience with the king. Now, there's two ways you can come at this. You can straightforward convince, but I think you have a move for this dealing with the powers that be, don't you, Iamon?
I do. I have a move for dealing with the powers that be. So yes, I will tell him that I have those missives from the Earl of Synhamm for the king and not for him, and I would like to convey them to the king myself, because there certainly will be questions, and I have certain news that maybe the king would like to hear.
I think if you show him the letters, not breaking the seal, but show him the seal on the letters, I think that that will convince him, and you are very well turned out for some vagabond on the road. You're far too well turned out for a vagabond on the road.
That's why I ask for nice clothes.
Indeed. Albeit, the party that's with you is pretty ragtag. And I think that probably he will be inclined to listen to you.
Good. I mean, I won't start introducing my party to him now because
yeah, if this roll goes badly, we'll know why.
Yeah. Should I roll now?
I think so. So it's roll plus sense, I think, for the powers that be.
It's roll plus sense, right, for the move. That's good because I've got some sense. Yes, I've got many sense. I've got 12 sense.
Gee whiz, that's pretty good. So I think he will. I think you will even get a little bit of deference out of him because I think he's heard the story of Iamon, killer of the Moonlit Boar, and he'll say, "Are you that Iamon? The ones that the songs are sung of?"
Yes, I am.
And I think that I just make a note of it. I think you're going to be with advantage when dealing with Briccius.
Cool.
And he'll usher you in, and I don't think he'll even draw breath when the others follow if they want to, because they're clearly associated with Iamon, Moonlit Boar Killer, and you know that seems good enough for him.
Yeah.
Anybody want to stay outside, or are you all going to go into the hall?
I'm going to go into the hall.
Yeah, I think Tucca's going to go in as well. I think Tucca kind of stands behind Iamon, kind of realizing that Iamon is not always certain of his abilities in these types of situations, and Tucca kind of imagining herself kind of on hand just in case Iamon needs a little aid or support.
Maybe it was a whisper in your ear that just pushed us above 12 there.
I'm walking right next to Eoman, as her equal.
His, please.
His equal, yes.
His equal, apologize.
So fine, and this is the first time any of you have been in a royal hall. Now, Elmet is not the biggest kingdom on the island of Britannia, but it is a kingdom after all. So, Sisha, what impresses you most about the hall of King Ceretric of Elmet?
I think there's some wood carvings of say like a hunt along one wall. It's actually quite large, made of several panels. It's quite inspiring.
Just for clarity, what are they hunting?
Well, stag, of course.
Fine. So we've got carved panels with hunted stags being hunted. Iamon, what about you? What impresses you?
I think it has to be the not just the weapons, but the armor that the guards are wearing. I mean, these guys, they look like, these are real warriors. They fought in wars and stuff like that, and they're wearing these armors that probably my axe couldn't even penetrate. And I am rather impressed by this show of martial prowess.
Certainly, they are very well equipped with mail or ring. Tucca, what impresses you? Apart from everything.
I think it's the scale of the architecture. I mean, it's just that I'm in a building that is larger, more sturdy, more more. I mean, it's not like it's like super elegant, but I mean, just that the care and attention that has been put into this building, and it is clearly a place of importance, the likes of which I've never really seen before.
I think that's true. While the fort that provides Earl Widdock of Synhamm with a great hall is an imposing structure, I suppose, but it's just a block of stone, really. And the hall itself is in the basement level and is a bit leaky. So it's nowhere near as grand as this. The floor is mosaicked. There was a fountain that you walked past. It's no longer running, but the carvings are there in that open courtyard before the hall. Icenius, what do you see that impresses you?
They clearly want us to see all of this Christian iconography kind of infused in everything, right? It's very, very Roman. But what they can't seem to hide were the hands of the pagan laborers that built this, that created this, that carved this stone, and the imprint that a knowing eye can see. For example, in an image, you see the two stones with the broken twig between the stones to indicate who really owns this place.
I think that's really nice. It's the kind of thing you find in cathedrals where the workmen have worked in little pieces of their own images or things that they revere. No, I think that's quite cool. Thank you. And seated on a very grand throne at the end of this quite long hall is King Ceretric. And I will now, I think, add a picture of Ceretric to the character keeper, so we've got something to pin on him. He is a tall, red-headed man with piercing eyes, who is appraising you from a distance, and standing beside him is a younger woman who I'll also add here. Where is she? There she is. And Briccius, who's led you in, will announce Iamon, killer of the Moonlit Boar, brings word from Earl Widdock of Synhamm to my king, Ceretric of Elmet, and Princess Manugia. How do you come at this, Iamon? What's your reaction after that?
I think I try not to stare, but I've never seen anything as lavish as that. And these people, they look very clean, I guess, and pretty and well fed. And they're a king and a princess, and I've never seen a king, or maybe I've seen a king from a distance, but not that close up. So I'm a bit like, oh my God, what am I doing here? But I'm not saying that. Okay, I'm trying to keep it together and step up to him. And I think Iamon is vaguely aware of the kind of bow you give to your superior person. So he will do that. And he will, he will declare that he has come from Synhamm as a messenger and brought these missives and brought also news from Denham.
And the king will appraise you. Why does a Celt bring word from a Saxon lord? I
have been welcome in our Woodcliffe's hall, as are other Celts on his land. He is not just lord to the Saxons on his land. He has been proven to be quite a fair lord to his Celtic subordinates. Is that the right word? I don't know. As well.
I think his eyebrows will go up at that. So he treats you well then, this Saxon lord?
He has always given me fair value for my services.
We have heard of the Lady of Synhamm, who is said to be a goodly Christian lady. What do you know of her?
The Lady Caradelvia is a goodly Christian lady. She is very wise and a valued advisor to her husband.
And Ceretric will look at his daughter, Manusia, and say, so the word we have is true. What do you wish of me then? Why have you sought audience with me?
I have sought audience with you because Synhamm has been plagued recently by attacks from King Beda of Lindsay. He has flexed his muscles. He has also, obviously, he is looking to expand his kingdom. He has attacked Danum, which does not belong to him.
That will certainly get, and Briccius, who's now standing beside the king, says, he has attacked Danum. He dared to attack Danum.
We are pretty certain that it was him. Those were Saxon warriors, and I think we found something on one of them, right?
You did.
And then I will show it to them. And we found this on them after we defeated them.
And Briccius will take this brooch, I think, probably, and say, yes, it is. It does show the dragon that often his warriors wear, my lord. This is very interesting, says the king. But you have travelled far. Rest now. Take some food, and tonight we will feast you.
I will bow again and take that as my cue to leave, or go with someone who will show me where I can rest and feast. Or
Briccius will put you in the hands of a serving man who will lead you out of the hall to one of a suite of rooms on the opposite side of the courtyard from the chapel, which obviously is kept for guests. The assumption, I think, is that your servants will sleep in the room with you or make their own arrangements. So there is but one bed, but it is a decent-sized room in which you could all bed down if you chose to. And the serving man will say that at dusk you will be summoned to feast.
yes, thank you. Can we move? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I'm looking at this picture of princess, and
yep,
there is something more like pagan about her, like style than the king. Is that true of how they're presented here?
I think that it is unusual to find that kind of tattoo on a Romano-British Christian. I think it's fair to say that that's true.
So as we're turning to leave, I pull an apple.
For our audience who can't see that picture, she's a red-headed young woman with a tattoo that runs around her eye to her cheek. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So as we're turning to leave, I pull an apple, I clean it on my shirt, and I toss it to her.
I think I'd like you to face danger to see how well that goes. So if you roll plus steal, let's see how that's received.
It is received with a 10.
She plucks it out of the air, smiles at you, and takes a hefty bite out of it. And then you're led out of the hall. So is there anything you want to do in Verbea in the interval between now, which is, they'll bring you some food because you've just come off the trail. There'll be some water to wash in, which is perhaps a novelty for some of you. And there's an opportunity for you to spend an afternoon in Verbea, if you wish to, or we can cut straight to the feast.
I would like to get a feel of Verbea, and I've been familiarized with the concept of washing in Synhamm, I think.
I would like, I don't need a scene for this, but I would like there to be like a kind of a montage, if Sisha's cool with it, of Sisha and Icenius kind of walking through the town, and Icenius is more like observing her and engaging with her on her level, like on her interests and that kind of stuff.
So Sisha, how do you want to spend this afternoon, if that's what you want to do? I'm just, I'm interested in seeing, what do we see?
Go to the market, just listen for the mood, visit the priest, presumably, or the lay preacher, whatever's in this area.
There is a bishop.
Whoa. Just going for for blessing, and I think that's about it. Really, just catching the mood of the area.
Fine. Well, I will ask you to have a look about you shortly, but I am just interested what Icenius does when you get to the threshold of the large church that is built in the middle of the settlement.
I reverently spit on the ground before we step in, but I follow. I do that, and I want to say also, I point out the pagan signs. I'm like, oh, just kind of like, that's interesting. There's a lot of pagan interest here. And even within the church architecture, I point out some of the hidden signs in the church.
Okay. Because it was probably built as a Roman temple back in the day and converted when the empire went Christian. And in here, there is no service going on, but you will find 3 clerics kneeling in front of the altar praying. What do you want to do, Setia, if anything, other than wonder at the painted walls and the colored glass? Truly, this is a work of divine wonder.
I think I'm just going to say a small prayer at the altar. It's so much more grand than anything I've seen before, and it's beautiful. And as Icenius points out, the older symbols, that's when I say, the two can coexist.
Icenius, any response to that, or do we just take that as part of the montage?
As the lion and the sheep coexist, yes.
So let's have a look about you from Setia to see what you pick up. Is that okay?
Sure. So I rolled. I got a 9.
Oh, fine. So you have whole 2 about the place, the situation, the people, anything you like about that you could have picked up as you wandered through the settlement to the I suppose it's the nearest to a cathedral that you're going to find.
Yeah. So it's a hold 1 on a 9.
Oh, so it is. Sorry.
And so I assume the market's probably close to the cathedral. Generally, it's a nice central area in these settlements. So while I'm there, I'm catching. I'm just something about the area and the again, like the overall mood and the things that are important that people are talking about. Like, is there like a specific one thing, and that keeps coming up in some of the small bits of conversation that I overhear?
I think that probably the sense you get is this is a prosperous settlement, part of a reasonably stable kingdom, because traders come and go. It doesn't seem like they're under threat particularly, but I think you will hear some talk of that. A trader told me that the Saxons to the east are getting very, very uppity. Okay.
All right. Perfect.
Anybody else want to do something with that afternoon? Iamon, Tucca?
Yeah, want to look around in town. Basically the same thing Setia is doing. Maybe visit the church. Yeah, I guess can't hurt.
And you will see the same impressive structure. Tucca, you going along?
Yeah, I was debating. I mean, That I think might be interesting if Iamon is going off, that Tucca will take advantage to kind of tag along with Iamon, and to kind of, we could share our observations of how the initial audience with the king went, and what our impressions of the settlement are, of this town are.
Oh yeah, I like that, because I really think Iamon isn't used to having somebody he can talk to about his impressions, but he's a bit overwhelmed by all this grandeur, I guess. Like this was a big hall.
And Tucca would note to Iamon, that went quite well. The audience with the king was quite good, and you kind of handled yourself and carried yourself with real confidence.
I didn't feel it, so. But thank you for saying that. I thought it went well myself, but I was worrying the whole time that I had something hanging from my nose, Well, I think we heard that Elmet had been having trouble with the Saxons before, so I think this is not quite a surprise to King Ceretric.
No, I mean, I did catch on that when you had mentioned our when you had mentioned what had gone on and Danum, and about the incursions of the Saxons to the east, they definitely were alert and interested in that.
Well, I just hope that he's not going to ally with Beta. That would be terrible. I mean, at least for Synhamm. Oh well. You think I should continue wearing these clothes, right?
Well, I don't see a reason not to wear them. I think it given how grand this place is, I think it helps our case to present ourselves as suitably dignified representatives of Synhamm.
And he looks at you and says, maybe we should find something for you something impressive for you to wear. I mean, not that I'm saying you're not suitably dressed, but a shawl or something.
Well, I'm looking around at the market here, and it would be interesting to see what they have for sale. I think part of our mission here is also to kind of look at possible trade opportunities, and we could look at what kind of clothing and produce and other products they are offering here.
Yeah, you can see that Iamon has never considered this in his life, but as you say it seems really, I guess, of course, we should do that.
I think you've probably triggered Look About You.
Yes, we want to look about us.
I don't know which one of you is best looking and which one might then help.
I don't know. I can look, or you can look.
It's based on sense.
Yeah, we're both the same at sense. So, you want to roll? Then I can help you if you need it.
Okay. Okay. I will do that. Let me get over. For some reason, that my dice are too low. I'll just go and roll some other ones. All right. So I rolled an 8.
So with help, that could become a 10.
Could it? Does help give +2 or just +4?
No, you're right. Yeah, no, you'd have to burn a fate to increase it by a whole category. Yeah, you're right. So not worth the candle, really. So on an 8, you have one question to ask me, Tucca.
Yes. I gotta get to my page here. I guess the question I would have, I don't know, I'm debating. I mean, I think I really want to get the attitude of the kind of people, the kind of common people, and I guess what I would want to know is what is the most significant concern that the common people of Elmet have?
I think apart from that kind of recent bit of difficulty, perhaps on the Saxon border, perhaps the thing that comes up as a point of kind of, I don't know if this is a good idea, is that King Ceretric pays tribute to the Saxon king of Mercia to the southwest. And that doesn't necessarily sit well with all the Celtic Christians of Elmet. So I think that's probably the other concern. It's a longer term concern, that why would their king decide to pay tribute to a Saxon king? Actually, I think that's something that might have come up in your conversation at Synhamm, Iamon, where one of the reasons that this was a possibly good alliance was that Synhamm knows that there is this tribute arrangement with the Mercians, and the Saxon kingdom of Mercia would be more than enough of a counterbalance to Lindsay. And that sometimes these alliances run by need, not necessarily heritage or even religion. Is that okay? Well, I'm inclined to say we've been going for 2 hours. We've got 45 minutes left to go. Would we like a 5-minute bio break? Okay. Shall we say back by 20 past the hour? Because I can only work in units of 5. See you then.
Say, Alan, if one of us stumbled across the tree that Ulfric was interested in, you would mention it, right?
Absolutely. You'll know it when you see it. Or so, I mean, certainly Icenius will know it and he's described it, and I think it's sufficiently distinctive that yeah, you won't just walk past it. Okay. I think that what I'd like to do is to cut to the feast, unless anyone's got any other plans. But noticeably before the priest, Briccius will arrive at your room, Iamon, with a gift for your lady.
Oh. Okay.
An embroidered robe.
Oh, very nice.
A gift from the king, and this for your attendants, and a less travel-strained set of clothing for Icenius and Setia from Princess Manugia.
Nice. I will find not very eloquent words of thanks. I mean, I will try not to stammer.
I think, your reputation is carrying you a long way so far, along with that very good role for dealing with the powers that be. So,
quick question.
Yeah.
Are the new clothes more or less comfortable?
I think they're almost inevitably less comfortable because they've not been worn by you.
Right. Yeah. Not interested.
Yeah. Please, we are guests in this hall. Please honor our host by wearing this Icenius. Guest rights are very important, and they are not only very important to Christians. I know they are very important to pagans as well.
I look at you with one eye closed, and I'm like, okay.
Thank you.
And so I think that Iamon and Tucca will be seated at the king's table at the head of the hall.
Before we go in, I will whisper to Tucca, they probably think we're married. Should we play into this or just let it? I don't know. How do you want to handle this?
Well, I do have a question. I mean, so the clothes that they provided clothes for Icenius, they provided clothes for Setia,
and then an embroidered robe for you.
My lady, I think what was said was for my lady companion, right? I assume that's you.
Yes. So I mean, I think that Tucca. I mean, first of all, when they leave after giving us the clothes, would kind of be laughing and say, "Iamon, I am your lady, right? And look at this magnificent embroidered robe. I've never seen anything so rich and so lavish."
Well, I wouldn't want to go out and tell everybody that this is incorrect, because this is really quite something, right? I think it will fit you, though.
Yeah, and Tucca, will quickly put the go and put on the robe and say, how do I look?
You look beautiful. Wow, you look like a lady. Suits you.
Yes, and they all think that I am your lady. So that will be a fun role to take on for the evening.
Of course, as you wish.
And I think our audience would know that as you were wandering through the market, talking animatedly, of course, Briccius was watching you, so he's drawn the obvious conclusions. So in the hall, Iamon and Tucca will be seated at the table of the king. and I think probably Setia and Icenius will be seated not on the top tier below that, because that's largely for his lords, but just beyond that, with you know, the kind of the traders, the people who make the settlement run. Yeah. So so Setia, do you want to do anything at table? You are doing a great impression of me by being muted.
Good God Almighty. Man. So good. Such a good Alan impression. Yeah. So I turn to the person next to me and I just say I forgot his name already. I'm turning to the faces, places. Verbea. King Ceretric. You with your D&D names. Ceretric. Is King Ceretric a good lord to live under?
Oh, our king is a fine lord. He protects the settlement and the kingdom, and people respect him.
And his wife, is she respected?
Oh, his wife died in childbirth. His only child is the Princess Manuja.
That is terrible. But at least the princess survived.
Indeed, and a thoughtful woman, young woman she is becoming.
Does she help the community?
She does what is proper. She disperses alms to the poor when necessary.
That's wonderful. You are indeed lucky.
Oh, I think we know that. And our king steers a difficult path between the powers around us.
I heard that there could be trouble from the east.
Yes, there are rumors, only rumors. I'm sure nothing will come to nothing.
Well, I hope those rumors don't start with some facts, that they are indeed holy rumors.
Indeed, I would drink to that. Icenius, do you want to do anything at table? You're a bit out of place as a child, really, and I think they probably assume that if you're not Sisha's child, then you are somehow related to Iamon or his lady. But no one would be impolite enough to raise that question of your parentage.
I want to try to gauge who's pagan and who's not, you know, without actually compromising the mission at this point or yet.
I think that wouldn't be difficult. I think a quick look about you will allow me to get some idea of that. But I'll tell you now without a roll that most people wear a cross. And the ones you can't see a cross, obviously worn, you probably will see a thong that probably has a cross inside their tunics.
But like Sisha, you know, it doesn't mean you're Christian, although they might think they are.
I think that's trickier. But I'll let you look about you to see how they respond during prayers before eating.
Which one is look about you as sense? Yeah.
It is.
I rolled a solid 6. So they're all pagans, right?
I think certainly more of them appear to be going through the motions of that grace before the meal, which the bishop stands and reads in rounded Latin. It feels like more of them are going through the motions than you might have expected from what they're wearing and mark experience. Iamon, Tucca, you're at the high table. I think, Tucca, probably you are seated next to the king. And I think, Iamon, you are seated next to Princess Manugia. What's the nature of the conversation, Tucca?
Well, Tucca sitting next to the king. Boy, this is quite a change. But I think Tucca is operating on a bit of an adrenaline rush right now, and she's going to be dignified, but you know, she. I think she's also going to, you know, perhaps be a little bit more bold than you would expect with the king, and you know, so she'll start a conversation with him, and you know, and begin it with just like oh, you know, King Briccius, we've you know been through the town here, and I must say we are most impressed by your grand hall and by the town as a whole. It is from where we come from, quite a resplendent place.
And I think, like any king, he enjoys having his ego soothed, and he will say, "Yes, I suppose it's a lot grander than Synhamm."
Well, it is true that the size of this settlement is on a grander scale than what we have in Synhamm. But it would be wonderful if one day you were able to visit down to our settlement to see what we have there. I've been noticing, you know, your products that you produce here, and I'm hopeful that maybe as a result of our visit, we could maybe start discussing some kind of trade that would be happening between our two towns.
Well, what an interesting line you take, young woman, to be interested in trade from a position as exalted as I'm sure you hold in Synhamm, being associated with Iamon, killer of the Moonlit Boar.
And Tucca blushes and says, well, you know, it benefits me to kind of think about all of the things that allow a kingdom to run, and certainly trade is I know, a very important dimension, right? Of it can give you added life to your kingdom, and so it is a particular interest of mine.
I have to say, I think that this is, when you have to act in difficult circumstances, I think sums this situation up. The farm girl and the king. There is a movie to be made. So I think I'd like you to roll to face danger, just see how the evening pans out.
Okay. So this is
roll plus steal.
Okay. So this ends up being a 5.
And I'm struggling to see how Iamon can step into this, because Iamon is sitting 2 seats away. So I think probably that having discussed trade relations, the small talk that you have for royalty dries up very quickly. So I think there is a polite silence as you then eat your way through the rest of the feast. Iamon, you're sat next to the princess.
Yay.
And the princess says, "Oh, do tell me. I am told the Lady Kaya Delvier is a remarkable woman."
That is true. Yes, she is.
And very learned.
Yes, she can read and write.
My, how enlightened of her husband.
I don't know if he can read and write.
Oh, goodness me.
He probably can. He probably can. And he has a priest for the writing.
I'm told that you have brought letters from him to my father.
Yes, I have. I just assume that I have given them over at the beginning.
And what are the terms of this arrangement that your Earl wishes to come to?
I have no idea, right?
None at all.
I believe the particulars are expressed in the letters, but I think that Synhamm needs allies against the aggression that is facing us from King Beda.
I think that this is again a slightly difficult moment, because it becomes clear that while you are the courier, you may not be the person who knows the details. So I think there's some kind of role going on here. I'm not sure what it is. What do you think it is?
I think, let me see the base moves and see. I mean, I have the powers that be to negotiate with her. I'm not sure I'm negotiating, but I might try to do that.
Oh, I think she's definitely fencing.
Is she?
Oh yeah, I think she's
no
trying
idea.
to work out. I think she's trying to work out what makes Iamon, killer of the Moonlit Boar, tick.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Well, can I just tell her? She can totally know what makes me tick. I don't mind that.
Okay, so if you do that, I'm going to put you in debt to her, because she will know stuff about you you don't know about her.
That's fine. Yeah, she is a princess, and she's asking me questions, and she wants me to talk about myself, I guess. I mean, I'm not a great talker, which is probably the first thing she'll figure out.
I mean, I have to say, all the roles suggest that you are quite some diplomat, but we'll put that to one side. Certainly in the fiction, you are not confident at that. So
no, I'm not confident at that. But I will roll to get her to support Synhamm's
fine
agenda, because that's why I came, and I believe that this Beda fellow is a bad egg. And
fine, I'll go with that. So
okay.
Roll to for the powers that be then.
Yes, I'll do that. Okay, that's a 5. I can go up to a 6. I think I want to spend fate for that, for sure.
Oh, good call. Okay, so on the 7-9, you get what you need, but any failure will bring trouble. Because I think justifiably, you want this to be a level playing field. You don't want to let the Earl down. So I think it's justifiable to spend some fate there. But I think if things don't, you need to do something, I think, to prove the Earl's worth through proving your own worth at some point. Yeah.
I don't mind
she gets it, but I think that you will need to do something.
Okay.
Anybody want to do anything else at the feast? Okay, because that conveniently allows me, as the feast is winding down and we are halfway through a very dramatic rendering of the tale of Iamon, the killer of the Moonlit Boar, by a declaiming poet and 3 musicians. And the hall is stunned to silence by this tale. People look at Iamon thinking, my goodness me, and he's not that tall. And absolutely taken in with the magic of the moment. And there are calls from the audience of speak more of the hero Iamon. And that's the point when the doors of the hall burst open and a man runs down the center of the tables that are lined up, falls to his knees before the king and says, my king, there are raids in the east. And I think actually that's probably the cliffhanger where we wrap this session up, unless you're very desperate to do something else in the moment.
Well, Eamon might be desperate to jump up and get to hit some raiders, but no, it's okay.
Oh, I'm going to ask the question then. What does Iamon do?
He doesn't do anything, because that is not proper, but he's very grateful to this guy coming in with his news of the raiders. And I think the princess, she will see that he's quite uncomfortable when this tale is sung, and then somebody comes up, there's another problem that he can probably solve.
Okay.
I just to put in a camera, I fill my pockets with bread.
Oh, I guess I've just noticed the thing in the chat. Of course you do. And there will have been apples on the table, of course. So if you're okay, I think that's a good place to just tie it up until next time. We've got a nice cliffhanger. Where do we go from here? I would just want to check. Do we think there were any debts owed or paid off during that session that we haven't dealt with in game? That sounds like that we've picked up the ones that would have been valid as we played. Okay, I'd like to have a quick roses, thorns, wishes, dreams, if we could, please. Can I go from left to right in the character keeper? So can I start, Robbie, with any roses and thorns, and any wishes that Tucca has for next time?
Yeah. So. Sabine, I like the scenes between our characters. I think that relationship from the get-go, of this session was really a kind of interesting and kind of different focus from kind of the focus of last week, which had more action. Fighting type scenes, but this one was kind of a nice, different kind of tack that we went on, and so I really found those scenes to be quite satisfying. And I guess my in terms of wishes for next week, obviously the cliffhanger is good because I think that we've had, it seems like this session a little bit of a kind of focus on the kind of interpersonal relationships, and now we obviously are gonna next session be set up to kind of deal with pressures of the external world, which will be kind of nice to get back to.
Yes, certainly that's what I think I'm probably intending. Moving along, Sabine, any roses and thorns, or does Iamon have any wishes for next time?
I have so I've forgotten something. I don't know if I can take it back because I was as a 6 and I bumped that up with fate, but I could have used one of the hold I have for being the boar killer.
You could indeed, and yeah, absolutely. Scratch the fate.
Okay.
Add scratch one of those love letter below us. Yeah,
that's what they were actually there for.
Indeed, they were.
So I think would have used this one. Roses, thorns, sorry. No, stars, wishes. More sorry, I have so many stars. I have stars for Hanno for playing Icenius as such a relentlessly pagan advocate who was like, no, Christians, we want pagans everywhere. There's pagans. These people have to be pagans. You have to be pagan. And that brings me to Setia, who was quite lovely and nice, and I loved that scene when she was going full Loon and just talking about stuff that happened yesterday, and I'm feeling kind of so sorry for her, and I just want to hug her and make her better. And Robbie, yes, the whole thing with Tucca, that is shaping up quite nicely. I'm curious to see where that goes because I don't know. And that's a good thing because knowing would be boring. No, it would be not as interesting. And Alun, that was an amazing switch from last episode where we had to fight and lots of action. And this time was quite the opposite, where everybody was talking. And then there was a ritual, which, oh my God, which was kind of ominous. And I'm really curious to see how that plays out. And then a bit of diplomacy, and my wishes for our next session is more of everything. Characters and action, and I want to see what this weird thing in Icenius' shoulder is and what it means to do. I don't have a good feeling about this.
Yeah, never a good feeling about stuff that snakes out of your shoulder. Okay, Scott, roses, thorns, wishes from Setia.
A big rose to Alejandro for helping get Sisha's story really started and rolling in the session. That was really great and generous. And everybody really played their characters well. I liked Robbie's kind of like evasive play of Tucca. But really, it's a good group of our peers here. So it was an overall good session. Thorns, no thorns. I like the system. I like the way Alun runs a game. So I got nothing wrong there. In terms of wishes, really want to see this curse in action in the next session, or at least its beginning, because this is a longer story that you've got going. So, but that's where I'm at.
Thank you for that. And finally, Alejandro, roses, thorns, and any wishes from Icenius.
So I am really excited by all of the characters, the character development. I loved just the one line here and there that Robbie dropped for Tucca that just kind of really nails Tucca and really fills Tucca. I love the relationship and the struggles that Iamon is having. Eoten, of all of us, the great hunter, the great monster hunter, the destroyer of boars from the moon. Eoten is the most insecure of all of us. And I love it. I think that that scene that Sisha and I had was really, really exciting. And I wish I would have brought more of that into the market scene we did together. But so my wish is I want to have a deconversion scene with Sisha. Succeed or fail or whatever, I want to have that like our mini little climactic little moment. At least it's climactic for Icenius.
Yeah, I get that.
So I kind of hedged on that montage scene we had because I just don't know how to do it or how to that wouldn't have been it. But I should have played more into that in that scene rather than just creating a montage scene. But it was good. This was a really fun game and great playing. Alan, props for this system. I'm really enjoying it, and yeah. So that's all my words.
Yeah, I mean, I'd endorse most of those roses, I think, and more. I mean, you are a great set of players, so it's like just unleashing and just watching it run. So that's great fun. But yeah, I think high points for me. I think the ritual was good. I really enjoyed that, and I'm beginning. It is that now tension in Sisha. Will she? Won't she? And I'm not sure there's deconversion here. I think there's in the end some choice to be made. And there may be consequences to that choice. We may need to engineer a way to bring that choice to a point because we've got one session left, I think. And yeah, I mean, I thought the scenes between you two spot on. I think that Tucca and Iamon, again, really dynamic relationship that is developing in really interesting ways. And forgive me for pushing on that door with the robe for Lord Aemon's lady. I just couldn't resist it. And yeah, Sisha, I loved the kind of, that was the first sign of a kind of full-on Loon, I think, that we saw, which was really nice. And yeah, Tucca is growing into her own, I think. We talked a couple of weeks ago or last week, I can't remember, about Tucca having a chance to step into that kind of position of responsibility or leadership, and I think we saw a bit of that again today. And Icenius continues to be a joy, doesn't he? I mean, apart from being a Deus ex machina for me because of his little bit of flint, he's a joy. So yeah, that went really well from my point of view. Very different from last week, as I think you pointed out, and enjoyably different. So we are set up with a cliffhanger. You know, who's going to leap to their feet first, I wonder, when we cut back to the hall at the start of the next episode, the last episode. But until then, I thank you all, and I will stop the broadcast now. So wave bye-bye to the internet.